This is Wayne Kublai Singh speaking from the flooded Caroni Plains, and I hope you tune into another episode of the effervescent Hard Talk. Welcome to District TT, another episode of this fascinating show. We are devoted to sending you programs, Hard Talk, on the ground and in our studios. You're an attorney, and I think you've spent the majority of your life trying to adjust or reform the local government system in Trinidad and Tobago.
A large
So
part
you
of it,
spent a lot of it at Susuland as well,
Susuland, yes.
trying to make affordable housing for persons who have been dispossessed.
Yes.
You've done a whole lot of things, legal work, political work, activism and so on.
Yeah.
So I have one statement to make, and I would like you to comment on it.
Sure.
Take as long as you want. That's the only statement I'll be making. Now, the regional corporations are neutered and do not encourage strong or effective leadership in an era of high crime, rural economic decline, and extreme weather events. We need 41 constituency chiefs, executives, and polling division captains to bring effective leadership back to local government.
Yes. And that's it. Okay, that's a very strong statement. And quite frankly, I don't know where to begin. But perhaps the best place to begin is whether the local government bodies are effectively neutered. We can start there. Neutered is a strong word, and I think it is very close to what's happening in local government bodies right now. See, local government bodies, they exist, but in form only. There's a huge piece of legislation called the Regional Corporations Act, Municipal Corporations Act, and 200-something sections, hundreds of pages, and so on. But while you have the structure and form, the spirit and essence of local government are totally absent. And one may ask, well, what is the spirit and essence of local government? And my response to that would be that the spirit and essence of local government is really the involvement of people in decisions that affect their basic needs. To me, from how I understand it and how I see it, is that is the essence of all development. You're not going anywhere unless people are involved in that process. Your society is going nowhere. Nobody's responsible, nobody's accountable, there'll be all kinds of chaotic things happening, people stealing, people doing all kinds of things. You have the police service force, but they exist in name only, essentially. All departments, more or less, the people aren't accountable. And the only way you can hold people accountable is from the bottom up, and so on. So, as an example of what's happening out there, and I do not blame the people for this, it's just that how our society evolved over the years and how the political structures took shape. If you walk down the main street of any main town, let's say Vancouver right now, there's no interaction between the people and their councillors. If you ask anybody and so on, has your councillor ever reported to you as a group or your community, had a meeting with you all? The answer would be no. There are 136 councillors in this country, in 14 regional corporations. 14 regional corporations, 136 elected councillors, there are several aldermen and so on.
Dr. Sankersingh, so assuming that you are the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, and you have to look at local government, do you think it's preferable to have a constituency chief, just like how you have a town with a mayor or borough with a mayor who is very effective, you know? For example, you have the Tobago House of Assembly where you have a chairperson who's very effective, more hands-on, with an executive, of course, and the polling division. Yeah. Captains, I think each constituency has about 30 or 35 polling divisions. Yeah. That structure would perhaps be more effective in managing the business of the people.
Well, if it is a structure which embedded in it is a large degree of accountability, but the moment you have one person at the top, fully in charge and so on, you know what could happen. and so on. So, but accountability must come from below. The people must demand accountability, and that's the only way it'll get to work. Now, it's a kind of cultural shift, a cultural change, and I'm sure people will want to get involved, but there's never been a push, a meaningful push in that direction. So that is where people like yourself, me, all of us who are involved and so on have to really move the society in that direction. But it would certainly work.
How could systems of accountability be sold into the system?
Well,
into that particular kind of system?
Well, the people generally must realize that they must demand accountability from their representatives. And once that happens, systems will develop whereby that accountability takes place. There's a funny story. I recall when I was elected a councillor, I had a meeting. Kelvin Ramnath was the constituency person, and I was smallest in the electoral district in this constituency. And at the end of the first month of my representation, I held a meeting with many of the people from the various regions and so on. And he came to the meeting, and he was shocked. Because you know, well, what am I doing? Why are you doing this? You know, this is not really necessary. And so, of course, because he never did that before for his constituency, but I wasn't aware that that's how they operate as well. So and he was really shocked, and it was only long afterwards I realized why he was upset, you know, and so on. But there was not accountability at all, you know, and that happens up to date. Let's take crime for instance. Let's say people believe that maybe Laventille and Mova is high crime areas and so on. Maybe a lot of the fellows they come from that and so on. If the representative, let's say Fitzgerald Hines, would meet with his people and organize little community groups, you know, in every area and so on, crime will immediately will decrease and almost disappear if he has effective community groups organized and so on, meeting with them occasionally, making sure, you know, there's interactive process and so on. So it takes time. And people like yourself you have done a lot in terms of getting the city governments to account as to which to what they're doing. When you had that committee set up, headed by that fellow from Tobago, what's he came across? I can't recall his name right now. I had this report.
Okay, I'm sure, right?
I know he used to work with the United Nations at one time. That was a powerful group, and they did really, really good work and so on. And that will go down in the history of this country as an important development aspect of it. But a lot of people, that has gone some time ago, and people might have forgotten because of the nature of the society is organized. But that's something that should be ever present in our minds, knowing that that instrument, that report, is the first of its kind, and I suppose in the whole of Trinidad and Tobago.
Well, I think it's a template for good government to manage and execute
That's right.
projects. You know, what are the steps? It's a kind of like an oversight.
That's right. Meaningful changes will be taking place. On paper, they involve the responsibility for communities. They're going to be repairing schools, repairing all government buildings, and a number of other situations and so on. Wide responsibilities. But you could have responsibility as wide as possible if people are involved in the process and call them to account. They find the same occupants. So, but we have to motivate the people in all the communities and so on to organize themselves.
The 14 corporations will remain?
Yes,
okay.
They remain.
Robert Sankersingh, thank you so much. Thank you very much for your wisdom and for your elucidation. Thanks very much.
Okay.
This is Wayne Kublal Singh, and you're now in tune with District TT Hard Joke. Thanks for joining us.